Hello, welcome to week 4 of the Citi Business Festival. Today we're looking at trade and we're zooming into AfCFTA. Now, over the years, we've been pushing companies in Ghana, Africa, to do business among themselves because of the potential of the African sector, the African region, and the many enormous opportunities available for business there to thrive. Today we'll be looking at the opportunities for Ghanaian businesses and, of course, the challenges and how they can maneuver in these times we have covered. But then AfCFTA is here and, of course, here to stay. When I come back, I'll introduce my guests, those who will be here in the studio and also via Zoom. And for those who are watching, prepare your questions. We'll be taking them at some point. But stay with us. We'll be right back. My name is Vivian Kailoko. Welcome.
And this is how it connects us. We believe in helping people find a way to get things done. We call this Africanacity.
And you're welcome back. Thank you so much for making time to join us. Remember, this year's edition of the Citi Business Festival is sponsored by AfCFTA, also sponsored by GIPC, that's the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. Also, IT Consortium is supporting this program. And then Citi FM, Citi TV, as well as Citi Business News are powering this edition of the Citi Business Festival. So, who do we have here in the studio and via Zoom? Let me introduce to you our guests for today's discussion. I have with me Michael Koto. He's the one of the big guys at Competitiveness, a research group over there. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian.
I also have Kobla Nyalete. He's the Director of Markets at AfCFTA Ghana and Nigeria. Kobla, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian.
Then I have Madam Fatima Ali Mohammed. She's the Chairperson, Agribusiness Sector of AGI, as well as the CEO of African Brand Warrior. Fatima, welcome.
Thank you.
And then joining us via Zoom, I have two gentlemen. I have Mark Bedu Abuaji, Chief Executive of GNCCI. Mike, welcome. All right, and then I also have Sam Daintu, who is the Deputy CEO of GEPA. Sam, welcome as well.
Thank you.
Right. Remember, today's discussion, the theme is preparing and positioning for the AfCFTA opportunity. So our discussions really will look at trade and then we'll zoom into AfCFTA. You can join the conversation. You can send us a message via Twitter or Facebook, or via the telephone line that is currently on your screen. But when you send the message via Facebook or Twitter, remember to add the hashtag Citi Business Festival so we can see your comment or question and, of course, relay to our panel here. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the discussion. Now, let's start with AfCFTA, really. I'll start with you, Michael. What really is this AfCFTA that we keep hearing all over the place? If you can give us an idea of the AfCFTA, situating it in the business mind, you know.
Well, thank you. The simplest way to explain what AfCFTA is, the African Continental Free Trade Area, is the common continental market. So you can look at it as an ECOWAS for all of Africa if you want. But it goes a step beyond ECOWAS. It creates a common market, a tariff-free market for several of the goods and services that are traded in the various countries in the continent. So it's not just trading goods, it's also trading services. So we've got a population of about 1.2 billion Africans, about 54 countries. If and when all the 54 countries ratify the agreement and commence trading, then you have all of the 1.2 billion African population being the market under AfCFTA. The way it is structured is that under the negotiations, and all countries that have signed the agreement, and all African countries with the exception of Eritrea have signed. So all the countries are currently engaged in negotiations. A few countries are yet to ratify, but almost 40 countries, about 37 at the last count, have ratified. What it means is that if the country ratifies, then the country qualifies to trade under the agreement. So businesses in those countries can trade under the agreement. If the country has signed but has not ratified the agreement, then businesses in those countries cannot do business under the AfCFTA. So the ratification is important. So as of now, 36 countries have ratified and therefore constitute the market size. If you take the GDP and the population of all those 37 countries that have ratified, that's the current AfCFTA as we have it. So it's not yet the full 1.2 billion, but hopefully when we get all the countries ratifying, that's the full 1.2 billion.
So for the 36, not to cut you, what kind of, in terms of the value, in terms of dollar, what are you looking at?
I haven't looked at that, but it's, for now, we have the most significant economies in the continent have ratified. So Nigeria has ratified, South Africa has ratified, Kenya has ratified, Ghana has ratified, Tanzania has, Egypt has, you know. So the biggest economies, in those who really matter in terms of market size, they have done that. So it's a huge milestone for the continent. Now, in terms of what products and services qualify to be traded, because just as not all countries qualify to trade until they have ratified, not every good, not every product, not every service can also be traded until it has been negotiated to be traded under the agreement. So the target is that 90% of all goods within the continent will qualify to be traded under the arrangement. So negotiations have been ongoing, and what happens is that various countries will submit a list of products that they want to trade under AfCFTA. And countries have some flexibility. So you, under the arrangement, I said 90%. The other 10%, countries have the opportunity to decide that they want to exclude those products because maybe it's a sensitive sector. They think that
they want to protect some of the sectors.
They are not ready yet to expose those sectors, to trading. So they want to take their time and gradually phase those sectors into the agreement. So countries are allowed the opportunity to exclude 3% completely out of the 10%. The other 7%, they are given a phase-in period of up to 13 years. To face those 7% of products into the agreement. So countries that are much poorer have a longer phase-in period than countries that are a bit wealthier in the continent. So there are a few of those flexibilities, but overall, the agreement, the idea is to bring down tariffs by about 90% on 90% of products.
So it's such a good deal for Ghanaian companies. We'll look at how they can take advantage of all that. But let me bring in Fatima and rope into this discussion about what, from where you sit as a brands person, you own your company as well, you're with the AGI as well, how you people see this AfCFTA agreement.
I think it's a fantastic opportunity. And to be fair, I'd also like to say that I do believe a lot of people want us to fail, especially those that we deem as the first world. Obviously, we've seen what's happened with the EU and the Brexit and other stuff that is happening. So there are those that think, and to be fair, I think it's we as Africans, and again, coming from the perspective of being a brand builder and building African brands, I think we're fully responsible for where we are at, because we don't tell the narrative in the right way, whether it's from politics or from the success of corporates, or businesses that we have that's happening on the continent. We don't tell the story the right way. So we tend to paint a very, dark picture of the continent. And because of what we're going through, on the continent as well, from, the political disarray and the poverty levels, there seem to be no hope. But I would like people to change their specs, because the reality is here. It's happening. I know businesses that have already started engaging, especially even in Ghana. If you talk about, companies even just like Casapreco, who've started. So the teething problems are there, but we're going to get there. The only way we can do this is to literally first work on advocacy, because I do not believe a lot of businesses at the top end, and especially SMEs, even understand what the continental free trade is or what it can do for them. Okay. More importantly, I am looking at this pandemic, as a blessing in disguise, because the pandemic has clearly shown us that as a continent, everything has to be localized. If I talk about being in Ghana, I've been here for 12 years and coming in from East Africa, we have been so dependent on imports that it clearly showed us to a point, and I'm sure most of you who shop, onions at one point was higher than the cost of fuel, of 1 liter of fuel. That was crazy. We are supposed to be growing onions in our backyard. We're importing tomatoes coming in, from Burkina Faso and other neighboring markets. So we really need to start advocating and educating, our people on the benefits of this.
But that's the reality of it. Sometimes we open our markets hoping to improve or build the businesses here. But in the end, we see other companies from outside rather taking advantage of it. How different is it?
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things, and this is one of the discussions I was at on another show, where, we're focusing so much on the list, the tariffs, what we can do with one another. But what is security? Security comes in from people feeling that they're taken care of, their need, their protection of whatever's happening. And I would like to use South Africa as an example. The xenophobia that was happening in South Africa did not happen because it was external people or foreigners that came to do it. It was Africans against Africans. Yeah. My biggest challenge with the continental free trade, which is a discussion that we haven't even touched upon, is security of people. Because what's going to happen is when we open our borders and we say, okay, an African, from a certain country can now come and work in Ghana, a Ghanaian can go and work in another country. What is it going to do for that market? Have we thought about just the simple basics that we need to look at? So like you've rightly said, we even have the EPA, the European Pact Agreement, that's happening. There's a lot of things that are happening that are not conducive for us as a continent. So we need to have those hard discussions right now, that how are we going to protect, local industry first? What is it that we're going to do to leverage the local industries to take them to the next level in terms of scale up and then obviously export? And then the other key element is collaboration. We can't do everything ourselves. Yeah. So what is it that we can do, for example, between Ghana and Kenya? If we're great at coffee, Kenya's great at manufacturing, how can we collaborate? Right, yeah. So we need to now let our guards down and find ways that can be able to make, collaboration work and faster.
Okay. All right, let me bring in Mark. You've spoken a bit from the AGI side, the brand side, but let me speak to another business association, GNCCI. Mark, are you guys excited about this AfCFTA thing, and your initial thoughts about AfCFTA, whether really it's a big deal or it's just one of those, agreements that we signed on to as a country?
Thank you very much. For me, I think it's an exciting time. We are happy about AfCFTA. The numbers looks very impressive. They look good. A high GDP that we can all tap into. Reduction in poverty, creation of employment through the AfCFTA. These are a great opportunity for us. But for me, the greatest excitement with AfCFTA is the fact that our SMEs can participate in trade, international trade. Because SMEs on their own are too small, and it's extremely difficult to participate in international trade. One, their skill is low. Two, they don't have the capacity. Three, they don't even have information on the trading platform. But for now with the AfCFTA, SMEs can participate by being part of a value chain. Okay. So if you structure it very well, then a small business somewhere that is providing, let's say, a shoe, can be part of a larger business within Africa and be able to also be export. So we are creating a platform for our SMEs. The situation where we have limited our SMEs now will be a thing of the past because they will be part of a value chain. So it's a Ghanaian company here, it's even producing a leather, can be part or can supply a leather to a company in Kenya who is producing shoe. So that is the context that I want us to look at this after. It's very good, great opportunity, but I keep on saying that the benefits from after will not be automatic. There should be a strategic and concerted effort to develop the businesses in Ghana to be able to take part or benefit from after. We don't have to do things business as usual. Otherwise, after will come and we may not fully benefit. Of course, we've signed a lot of our trade agreements. We are part of WTO. We are part of AGUA, for instance. I can give you a clear case of a reason why we've not benefited from AGUA. Because we had opportunity to export duty-free, quota-free to the U.S. market, just as we are having with AfCFTA. But the reason that question that we all have to ask ourselves, have we been able as a country to take advantage of AGUA? If not, then what do we have to do now to be able to benefit from AfCFTA? Even with the common ETLS within the West African country, we've not been able to take full advantage of. Because if you look at trading now within the Africa context, even within the West African context, those who benefit from trade are those who are manufacturing, those who are adding value to the raw materials. Because if you take, for instance, cassava, if you go to Nigeria, you get cassava there. If you go to Cote d'Ivoire, you get cassava there. Why would somebody export some cassava from Ghana? But if you added something to cassava and you have a cassava chip that people can buy and also eat, then it means that those who are not able to add value to cassava in Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria can get access to this and they can buy. So the way forward is not to export these raw materials, but to add value to them. So for me, it's a great opportunity, but we can take advantage when we prepare very well and we are ready to enter into this market. Okay,
let me put you on the spot. You were saying that businesses must prepare for this after thing. It's not business as usual. Authorities must also come in and ensure that, they help the businesses to prepare for this market. But your association, for example, as we speak now, what have you put in place to make sure they are ready for this market in terms of preparation?
Thank you very much. We've done a lot. One thing is to be able to sensitize the people, for them to know what AfCFTA is, what is in it for them. And we realized that most of this sensitization and capacity that we were doing were at a level where an ordinary SME person will not be able to participate in it. So they probably might have heard of AfCFTA, but they don't know what is in AfCFTA. What are the protocols? What are the rules of origin? How would they be able to participate in AfCFTA? So we have to go down to their level and explain it, even to some extent, in the local languages. Sometimes the big English is so big for them. Even with those who are technical people, if you take the typical protocol and you read, sometimes you might not even be able to understand it. But when we do that, we should break it down for somebody in some village who is ready to even export ginger or be part of a value chain of using ginger to prepare a beverage. That this is what it means, that you'll be able to export because the ginger, for example, is a wholly produced good from Ghana. It means that you can enter the African market duty-free, quota-free. You don't have to add anything because under the rules of origin, you can export. Then that person will understand that, no, I'm not cut out from being part of this bigger market, but I can also participate. So at that level, we've gone through the entire country where we have our branches and we have sensitized them. I think we need to do more collectively. So I understand, but I think we need to also bring it to a level where they understand. I also made mention of creating a platform to aggregate these SMEs or helping them to be part of the value chain. In fact, together with the West African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we have created a platform where all businesses can sign on to. So if you have your business, you go there, and there's a where you can provide information about your company, the quantity you are producing, and if you are looking to collaborate with any other company within Africa, then you can provide that information.
Okay.
Recently, one of our members who produces shoe in Kumasi, signed on to the platform. Within a week, he had 200 calls from Africa.
Wow.
And he's been able to increase his production from 200 shoes per month. Now he's doing 500 shoes.
Wow.
And other people are also asking for raw materials and other things. So these are some of the things. Even in Ghana, we are collaborating with an IT company to make sure that we create that platform where SMEs can also sign on to. If you have about 10 of them producing a particular product and you are providing support to them, it's very simple and it's very easy because you can aggregate them and provide this support. But if you don't know where they are, in fact, that same gentleman told me they didn't know that there are a lot of shoe manufacturing companies in Ghana that he can collaborate with them. So now there's a company that is providing for leather and other raw materials to him, and he's now adding value to it. So we have done the sensitization. We also created a platform to aggregate these SMEs and also be able to provide these support services also to them.
Okay, I think we'll all join that platform to take advantage of it. But let me bring in Sam. Sam, what opportunities, now let's look at the details of this. What opportunities are there for local businesses in Ghana, especially the MSMEs and the SMEs? What opportunities for them? And Sam, if you can lift your mic, you're off as we speak. So while Sam is rectifying...
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Thank you, Vivian. And let me just take the opportunity to also thank Citi FM for this platform, because for Ghana Export Promotion, which is the national trade promotion organization, this provides an additional platform for us to talk about AfCFTA and opportunities in export in general. Talking about AfCFTA, I think that the various speakers have really spoken a lot about it, and it's a subject matter, or it's a protocol that is still in its early stages, and we are doing a lot of sensitization about it. Just like Mark just said, GN and CCI is doing a lot of sensitization about it. Many other private and public trade promotion organizations are doing sensitization about it. So in terms of AfCFTA, we would say that many people need to understand, many people need to appreciate what it means. And like Michael said, it simply means that if you are a shea butter producer in Ghana, today Uganda market is open to you. You can sell your products there. You are not just looking at the market within Ghana, but the whole of Africa. Assuming that everybody rectifies it, just like Michael said in the beginning. So in terms of opportunities, there are a lot. Let me say that AfCFTA was anticipated. I think it's a protocol that has been on the drawing board for a very long time. Ghana was very instrumental in initiating it. And so as a country, we have been actually preparing to meet AfCFTA. Today, we have our National Export Development Strategy document that is a direct response to AfCFTA's opportunity. And within that strategy, there is about 17 products that we have prioritized to put more emphasis on. These are products that has been there. These are products that has been within the export ecosystem. But then we have looked at what Africa generally imports, and then what Ghana has advantage on. Competitive advantage on to take to the African market. So in terms of opportunity, I'd like to put it in perspective. I think one of the speakers, I'm not sure whether it's Michael or it's Mark, mentioned the fact that there is a similar protocol that looked at after ECOWAS markets. And I'd just like to give you some figures to put this whole AfCFTA thing in perspective. So let's say in 2018 and 2019, Ghana exported to West Africa market under the UTLS a total trade value of about 772 million in US dollars in 2018, and then in 2019 we exported about 941 in 2019. Out of these, and this is total exports to ECOWAS markets or to West Africa. Now, out of these, about for 2018, 742 came out of non-traditional export. And when we talk about non-traditional export, we are talking about basically value-added exports. So in 2018, out of 772 million US dollars, 742 came out of NTA and to the ECOWAS market. And in 2019, out of 941 US dollars trade between Ghana and ECOWAS, 863 came out of the non-traditional sector to the ECOWAS market. This gives us an indication that, I mean, these were basically traded under the UTLS that Mark mentioned initially. Even though we haven't really optimized the potential under UTLS, some good trade was done under UTLS. And so to set that as a basis, it gives us a good excitement that if we do all that we are supposed to do in terms of preparations, and in terms of planning, we are done as actually as a nation being led by GEPA as the national TPU. That is why I said that we have our national export development strategy. What is needed is to go into the implementation which have started. And like Mark said, and from the chamber point of view, they are doing their bit. I'm sure other organizations within the ecosystem are doing their bit. But what is important is that we need to collaborate more. We need to put together our efforts. If we did it individually, if we did it as though GNC is doing their own, GI is doing their own, the GIPC is doing their own. And if we don't be deliberate and systematically work towards a certain goal, or not a certain goal, the goal of being sure that our businesses and especially the SMEs are assessing those markets. We will do bits and pieces individually as though we were in competition, and then we will not achieve more. What GEPA...
Well, Sam, I think it's a good time to take a quick break, but...
there are a lot of dangers. So what we are doing is that we are coming up with a project that will bring everybody within the ecosystem together, and then we are going to say that, which are the 100 companies that potentially can access which market with which product. And then together we are going to work together systematically to ensure that our goods get into the African market, because otherwise the dangers will rear their heads and we would lose our market and we will lose our revenue. So the opportunities are there. I'm sure as we go along, I would list this.
I'm quite interested in the opportunities and the areas, because I think everybody wants to know the particular areas. So I'm going to take a quick break, Sam. When I come back, you give me the particular areas and the other areas that really people haven't even noticed that they can take advantage of this. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more on the opportunities and also financing. Cost of credit in Ghana, we all know what the story is. Kwabla will take us through how we can beat that system if we can, and then we'll look at the way forward. But we'll be right back. Don't go away.
this is how it connects us.
私たちをつなぐ。
We believe in helping people find a way to get things done. We call this Africanacity.
Welcome back to the Citi Business Forum. It's week 4 and we're looking at trade, zooming into AfCFTA, opportunities for Ghanaian businesses and how they can deal with their challenges as well. I'm going to go back to Sam of GEPA to now take us through the opportunities for small businesses, micro businesses and other businesses that GEPA can, get us to know about and also take advantage of. Sam. Sam, can you turn on your mic?
Sorry.
Great.
So thanks, Vivian. In looking at the opportunities, I'd like us to look at what Africa generally imports, because that's important. Mm-hmm. So if you look at what we call the trade potential or export potential map, which is a tool that we work with very, very often, a tool that ITC owns. You look at it and then it tells you that in 2019, the product that Africa is exporting or importing, Africa is generally importing. You have petroleum products, about $52 billion were imported into Africa. You have passenger cars, about $19 billion. This is 2019 data. US dollars of 19 billion. You look at medicaments, about 13 billion was imported throughout Africa. Rice, about 6 billion of it was imported throughout Africa. Other petroleum gas and other hydrocarbons, about $6 billion. Sugar, about $5 billion. Vegetable and animal fats, and cocoa and cocoa derivatives, about close to $1 billion of it were imported by Africa. Now, if you look at what's the opportunities or the opportunities that Ghanaian products can Ghanaian SMEs can take advantage of, which has been integrated in our strategy, our strategy document, the National Export Development Strategy. We have 17 of them. So we have cocoa, processed cocoa, cashew processed and cashew in shell. We have the horticulture products, and when we talk about horticulture, we are talking about all the farm products and vegetable fruits and others. Okay. Oil seeds. So oil seeds, we are talking about palm oil and coconut oil and all those things. We are talking about fish and fishery products, both processed and raw. Textiles and garments is a huge area. Natural rubber sheets is one of the products we are looking at. Aluminium products, we are looking at. We export a huge amount of that into the sub-region and Africa. Here in Ghana. Articles of plastic and other petrochemical products is also in focus. Services is also in focus, looking at all the strategic anchor industries, pharmaceutical products. We are at iron and steel, automobiles and vehicles, industrial salts. We have huge amount of industrial salt in Ghana. The question is that how do we prepare them to be able to take advantage of AfCFTA. Machinery and components, we are talking about industrial starch, which projects we have already started, and sugar. So these are the 17 products that are in focus that we are preparing to take advantage of as far as AfCFTA is concerned. And like I earlier tried to mention, how we do it is important, and what we do is important. It's not just going to be about telling the SMEs that there are market opportunities, let's say in Kenya or in Rwanda or in Morocco. It's about identifying and grouping these SMEs, taking into consideration their strengths, taking into consideration their preparations, and taking into consideration their desire to even sell outside of Ghana. And then we group them according to the product. Sometimes other companies would have to join to produce to meet a certain order. All that will be done, and all that will be done together as a trade ecosystem. So GNC, Chamber of Commerce will be part, GIPC will be part, FDA will be part, GSA will be part. Everybody would play a certain part in making sure that we have 100 or 200 or 500 companies assessing different markets. And when we say assessing the market, it goes to the extent of even making sure that they have a distribution footprint in the market based on their capacity, based on the products that they have, and all that. So a systematic and deliberate project is being drawn up, and everybody within the ecosystem will be part of it. Otherwise, if we leave them and tell them just about the market opportunities, we might not be able to win, and we will be affected by the influx of other commodities that may come from elsewhere.
Okay, thank you, Sam. I think it's time for us to rope in Komla. He's been, he's been so gentle with us and nice to us and patient about it. But Komla, before I ask you the question, I want to read a report from Michael. They did that report together with the Busak Fund. It was supported by Danida and Co. on Ghana's competitive potential in the AfCFTA. They looked at the country competitiveness and opportunity assessment. That's the title of the report. And I want us to go to a part of the report where they talked about, the challenges or our key challenges as a country. And the first one they put out there was cost of credit. Now, they say cost of credit is actually our weakest point, and I think we all agree to that. And they did a ranking as well where we ranked at the bottom of the list when they compared to the top African exporters. For example, we know that the current policy rate, 14.5, as of January 2021. But if you look at the others, the people we want to compete against, for example, Morocco, their rate is at 1.5%, South Africa 3.5%, Cote d'Ivoire, just next door, 4.5%. Now, my question is, obviously, businesses need, the credit to, penetrate and grow. But here we are, where our rates are so high, where we're all struggling with cost of credit. You are in the banking industry. How do we deal with this, knowing that this is the reality we are facing?
Yes, thanks very much, Vivian. Before I answer the question, I would like to state that, as a bank, we do not see AfCFTA only as an immediate 3-5 year business opportunity. We see AfCFTA as a social imperative. We see it at the core of lifting people out of poverty and indeed enlarging the markets where all businesses will play in, which market, when enlarged, will be to the benefit of banks such as ourselves. And therefore, we are invested in making sure that AfCFTA does work. To your question directly, yes, there's nothing to disagree with my dear friend Michael Koto's, report. The macro picture in Ghana is as it is. However, I would like to point probably two ways that businesses that we are talking about here, i.e. businesses that will be considering engaging in international trade, can potentially, at least, in the interim, navigate around that. Number one is that AfCFTA means you begin to do business with countries and businesses outside of Ghana. That is international trade. Yeah. And in banking and finance, what that means is that you will begin to receive foreign exchange when you do export, for example, your goods to, say, Nigeria to say, Morocco. Participating in international trade and receiving hard currency should enable a business not to look at tapping only local currency sources of funding.
Okay.
All right? Because if you are, a business and selling to South Africa, earning ZAR, you should be able to talk to your bankers about probably raising funding in say ZAR or raising funding in say dollar, today's global currency. And rates in those spaces are lower than Ghana. All right? And therefore, although your entire, production may be based in Ghana, you are selling outside. Let me give you a classic example. Cocoa board. Cocoa board does not raise funding really in the city market. All right, because what they sell is dollar denominated. Similarly, businesses should be able to explore that. So that is one real way that in the interim businesses can begin to escape some of the restrictions of a very high interest rate environment in Ghana. The second is that, really the macro situation is improving, a bit. Indeed, at the point where the report was produced, policy rate was 14.5. Today it's 13.5. I think inflation was probably, close to 10, if not above 10. Today inflation is 7.5. A continuous improvement in the macro should mean that over time, our interest rate regime should become a bit more competitive. Fundamentally, we need to ensure that we also focus on improving our macro situation as an important ingredient in enabling our businesses to be competitive in the after discussions. And therefore, I believe that all the key stakeholders in this arena, say the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Ghana, should also be part of the conversation. Everybody must know the role that they need to play in order to enable Ghanaian businesses, succeed. But as I've said, the key thing is that as a business engaged in international trade, you all of a sudden not become only subject to raising funding in your domestic, in your domestic currency. And we all know, how low dollar rates today are, and therefore our businesses should be able to, tap into those as well. Okay. Additionally, there are some trade products that does not necessarily, mean you are raising funding. Some of them are simply fee-based, arrangements. That does not mean that you will take up, say, a 15, 20%, cost of credit. Businesses must talk to their banks like AfCFTA, understand those, and be able to use those products.
Do you have examples of some of these products to help those who are watching now?
So, a classic example in the trade finance space is what we call, an LC. All right? All right. So here simply you are telling, whoever you are probably, importing from, that a bank is behind me and has guaranteed that if you do supply goods to the terms agreed, by set date, the bank will pay. All right? And therefore, you do not need to raise credit, immediately to be able to, for example, prepay. And therefore, those facilities should be utilized by, by businesses to make sure there's no the need to unnecessarily, extend funds ahead of receiving goods from, say, their suppliers.
But that's long term, and that's you in there. You have done a couple of exports. But if I'm going to start, let's say, next week, I need the money to get my products out there. I can't go by you. If I come to you, you wouldn't agree that, what's in there for me. Michael's report, it says they made some recommendations where they were suggesting that, for example, a subsidized export financing window is made available for financing. For players. Then later along the line, where the level playing ground comes to where we see a reduction, things can be changed a bit. A good idea, no?
Definitely, a good idea. And indeed, I think that particular suggestion is part of one of the areas where the newly muted national bank, should really be focused on, because the truth is, to be able to provide subsidy at scale you need to be able to bring a couple of stakeholders together, and probably at the start, government needs to lead, that kind of, subsidy arrangement. And therefore, yes, that's an idea, just a suggestion that I definitely subscribe to.
Okay. Michael, since it's your report and you've come out with great recommendations and all that, what's your thought on what he said about, getting other banks from elsewhere to help? And also, government should, the NIB, the National Bank should also start the process and then others follow.
I agree with that. We're definitely going to need a lot of innovative approaches and mechanisms to deal with this cost of credit issue. And so what he has suggested, I totally agree with. One of the things that needs to be done is that the banking industry and the rest of the larger financial sector need to also look at AfCFTA as an opportunity. Mm-hmm. Because the way the conversation goes currently is that it's an opportunity for industry,
businesses, and
they need to find a way to convince banks and financial sector players to provide financing. Mm-hmm. This is just one way of looking at the opportunity. For banks, AfCFTA is probably the single biggest opportunity the financial sector in Africa will ever have. Mm. So it's absolutely crucial that the banks and the financial services industry in Africa takes the lead. Mm. I would say they take the lead. They don't wait for the businesses to build their capability to export before they come in and support. They should take the lead. Banks should begin to profile potential AfCFTA champions, potential AfCFTA SME champions, and begin to look at companies that they can go after and support. It's not just the businesses coming to them. And one of the recommendations we made here is for the Ghana Bankers Association to initiate this conversation and bring the banks together and say, AfCFTA is a great opportunity for our country, it's a great opportunity for industry, but it's also a great opportunity for the banks. Now, if we don't stimulate this opportunity, it would never materialize to our benefit. So it's a chicken and egg thing. If you sit back for the businesses to grow before they come to you for financing, the banks are never going to benefit from AfCFTA.
But is it that the banks don't see the opportunities because they're also coming from the angle that, well, we've seen these trade things? I mean, what's the big deal here?
They do, but everybody is playing wait and see, right? Which is it's going to be one of the fundamental things about AfCFTA. So we've seen ECOWAS before, we've seen SADC before, so what's different this time around? The biggest difference about AfCFTA is the will of Africans, the political will of our political leaders, a sense of entitlement by our industry and private sector, that this is ours. So somebody is not going to make it work for us, right? One of the biggest failures of ECOWAS and the rest is because private sector sits back, governments go sign the agreement, and some way, somehow, somebody has to apply the pressure to ensure that it's implemented. Otherwise, it won't work. So my position is that each of the critical stakeholders in this ecosystem need to begin to have a sense of entitlement. That this is the single biggest commercial opportunity in the history of this continent. And it's either we make it work for us or not. So there is a sense of duty that has to come. It's not just business. Because how do we transform this continent? It's not just business as usual. There has to be a commitment. But the beautiful thing about this commitment is that this commitment translates into profit. It's not just sacrificing. So the likes of AGI and Ghana Chamber of Commerce and the Ghana Bankers Association, the associations especially have a lot of convening power. And the whole lot of influence. And I think they need to begin to come together to push. Somebody has to keep applying the pressure point. But for the banks, especially specific to your question, and I like especially how Kobla started the premise to it. It says that for ABSA, for example, it's an imperative, right? That requires that you take the lead. So I would like to see the banks, if every bank in this country decides that they are going to profile, they shouldn't even go too far, just amongst their customers, their own business clients. Just pick the top 50 clients. Every bank should pick the top 50 clients that it considers as a potential AfCFTA SME champion. And and call them to the table and say, hey, if you guys succeed in the African market, we succeed because we are your bankers.
Yeah.
How can we support you? What are your strategies? Give us your AfTA strategy.
Yeah.
Let's see how we can support you to succeed in AfTA, because you succeed in AfTA, we succeed. And I think that's how we have to go.
Okay. Fatima, you wanted to add something?
I want to.
Okay.
So it sounds like Michael is taking a leaf from, has seen a couple of the things that we've probably done. So at AfCFTA, we have an AfTA strategy. And indeed, not only an AfTA strategy in Ghana, AfTA strategy across the 11, 12 markets that we play in, and also across about 5 other what we call non-present countries that we are able to take our clients, into. And therefore, we do have that. And indeed, here, the beauty of it is that we are then able, for example, to lead a Ghanaian, business who want to do business in Kenya.
Yeah.
Because we are actually on the ground, present really in Kenya.
Yeah.
All right. In addition to that, we are also really, part of conversations to really address some of the systemic, big issues across the continent. So, for example, payment. All right. How our business is able to pay, seamlessly. I think the Ghanaian payment ecosystem has developed quite almost like ahead of a couple of the markets. Okay. And we are looking to take, learnings from Ghana, for example, into those other, those other markets. And therefore, without any doubt, any business who want to really begin to capture the opportunities of AfCFTA must talk to us. In addition to the points made by Michael around how all of us, associations, bodies must come together, I think just the ordinary person must also understand what AfCFTA means. And ordinary people, everybody must begin to exert the pressure on the political leaders, on the people who can make the difference, so that it becomes a must-do. All right? It's a must-do because there is something in it for everybody.
Everybody, right. But let's look at our capabilities as businesses or as Ghanaian people, and our production capabilities as well. Let me start with Fatima. AGI, from the team that you've seen, from the business and all that, what are our capabilities and where are we very strong at that we can take advantage of?
I mean, if you go to everything, you go back to Michael's report, it's all put in there. I know the first thing that we talked about, even in terms of ranking right now, in agric, we're ranked 10th on the continent.
14th.
We're 18th in textiles. So, I mean, the information's already there. What I love about the conversation that we're having is that we can see there's a passion. We can see there's a can-do approach. And it's an African saying that we have that, when you want to eat an elephant, you don't eat it whole. You've got to eat it in bits and pieces. The bits and pieces are already being shared here. This is a private sector led, driven, angle. It's always said, government has no business running business. They're supposed to be enablers and creating the foundation and the policies to enable this to happen. The drive has to come in from the private sector, and I'm glad to see GEPA, Sam talking about it, Mark talking about it as the Ghana Chamber. We've got to put away all these hats that we're sitting with as individual associations, organizations, or the banking sector, whatever. We need to come in, and that's why, if you remember at the start, I talked about collaboration. Collaboration is key, whether as associations, whether as nations, whether as political leaders. And Mike literally put that in the right perspective, the will, and the drive to do this. So we need to put that pressure, because if we do not do that, again, like I've said, we are going to be seen as a sitting duck, people waiting for this to happen. Now, one of the other easy solutions, and answering your question, is the one district, one factory in itself. The one district, one factory, for me to be successful, can only come in again from ownership and collaboration. One district, one factory cannot be just one factory sitting there as a white elephant, for example, and thinking, okay, I've put this factory, I've put it in the right region, and now people are going to come to me and supply me with raw material. The person who's supplying you with the raw material, if he thinks that you are going to give him 50 pesos more than he is going to give to him, he's obviously going to come to you. This factory gets, messed up in the process. So how is it that we can create an ecosystem where the logistics suppliers, the raw material suppliers, the community all have a stake in that business? Why can't we give them 1% of that business in that one district, one factory? Then they know that, the success of this factory is dependent on me. So the idea is to then bring in this collaboration and ownership, which goes back to this whole value chain approach. By just having somebody producing pineapple. I mean, I was at one of the events last week at the Italian embassy's project, and one of the ladies that I just happened to meet was in pineapple, and I said, oh, so what do you do with the head of your pineapple? She goes, oh, we throw it. I said, sorry? And she goes, yeah, we throw it. I said, do you know that people come in from India to buy the head in ton loads so that they can go and make you sisal ropes for your ship and for your mats that we are being sold back to? And she was like, what? And I immediately gave her a contact. And I said, please, let's find somebody who's going to be able to buy your
pineapple
head. The same thing happens with the coconut fiber. It's exported because we don't see the value in it, So as much as we can say, yes, financing is an issue, it is an issue, but what about our cost of competitiveness? If we talk about our electricity cost, right now Ghana, if I'm not wrong, is at 15 to 16 cents per kilowatt, in comparison to other markets right now that are much, much lower. And then obviously we have Big Brother from Asia, without me having to mention the country, that, is taking our raw materials, is going to be cheaper than us, in terms of competitive production. Where are we against that? So are we there? I don't think so. Okay. Are we going to get there? Yes, I believe we can. And that can only happen with us literally changing mindsets. I want to quickly just touch on something that as I was sitting in your reception, I watched on your news, and you did a poll, and it said 55% of the youth are really looking forward to greener pastures outside Ghana. For me, that is the cancer. That is the problem. Because it clearly means we haven't given our youth the opportunity to believe in the nation, to believe that there is a possibility to do things here. And that's why we need a complete mind shift also in terms of what are the areas that we're looking at between the old and the younger generation. Technology is such a crucial element for that, and digitalization, and how can we get SMEs onto e-commerce, and how to be able to get them to be able to tap into local markets, tap into the continent, and also into the export markets.
Okay. Michael, same on capabilities.
Well, there's the short term, medium, and long term. The thing with AfCFTA is that there are first mover opportunity, first mover advantages that somebody needs to capture. And if you look at the data about intra-Africa trade, the level of intra-Africa trade is higher in the trade of value-added products than in the trade of primary products. So even within Africa, the story is very clear. If we want to succeed in intra-Africa trade, you have to do value addition.
Absolutely.
The more value added, the more there's trade in Africa. So that's number one. So that's clear. We need to focus on that. At the moment, we have a lot of challenges, right? Cost of production is very high. Cost of export is high. If you put all of it together, and as we found in our report, we're not the most cost competitive when it comes to competing in Africa. So we need to work on those structural issues over the medium term. And some of the issues in the export development strategy and the 10-point agenda for industrialization, et cetera, are all trying to address that over the medium term. And we have to keep working on that. But we can't wait for the medium term if we want to win and be a first mover player in Africa. So we need some immediate strategies. You see, a lot of countries, as I said, everybody's trying to play wait and see.
Wait and see,
That's a great opportunity. When everybody's trying to play wait and see, that's a great opportunity to make a first move and capture and consolidate markets. So there are certain products that Ghana is currently a significant player in the continent. And in the study that we did, if you take plastics, we rank number 6 in Africa. If you take mineral oils, fuels, lubricants, we rank number 7 in Africa. If you take pharmaceuticals, we rank number 9 in Africa, right? If you take agro-processed goods and you can break it into, we're number 14th in Africa. So there are certain products in which we are already sort of within the top 10, top 15 in the continent. We need to make sure that we consolidate and build on those for certain first mover advantages within the AfCFTA.
Okay.
And when I think about it, one of the quickest ways to do this, right, is to look at partnerships.
Okay.
So AfCFTA is a scalable opportunity, which means that there's a huge market, right? If you're not scaling, you're not really taking advantage of it. If you're just, picking bits and pieces here, then you're not really taking advantage of it. So we need to think about the AfCFTA opportunity as a scalable opportunity. And we have too many small businesses that on their own cannot really export into the AfCFTA market and take advantage of it. So partnerships in two senses. Number one is that our business people need to learn to move beyond the one-person way of doing business. We are not going to build Pan-African multinationals. And that's one of the opportunities that AfCFTA provides for us, to make Ghanaian local champions grow into Pan-African champions. Yeah. We're not going to do that if we're going to keep running our small businesses. It will not happen. So the first one is to learn how to build these partnerships. Okay. And I've talked time and again about what I call a partnership of rivals.
Okay. I like this partnership discussion. Kindly hold on with that thought. Yeah. I'll take a quick break. Well, we'll look at the partnership of rivals, you said. Okay. And many other. Do Ghanaian businesses like to marry? They don't. Why? We'll see. We'll understand that. But we'll be right back. You can start sending your messages, your questions. Remember to add the hashtag Citi Business Festival when you send it via Facebook or Twitter. Or alternatively, you can send us via the line currently scrolling on your TV set. We'll be right back.
Good Day Energy Drink keeps you going. Available in major supermarkets and shops near you. Excessive drinking can be detrimental to your health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advert is FDA approved.
And you're welcome back. It is the Citi Business Festival, and we're looking at AfCFTA and how businesses can benefit from that. And we're just talking about collaboration. And Michael, you made a very interesting phrase, if you can take off from there, about collaboration.
We need to build partnerships of rivals in Ghanaian industry. So take the pharmaceutical sector as an example. We've got a lot of pharmaceutical manufacturers in Ghana who are not really doing real manufacturing. They've got capacity that's not being utilized. And that's because of a lot of factors. But one of the main factors is because each of them on their own is too weak to be able to compete. And imagine if the 4 or 5 leading manufacturers came together and merged forces. A mega manufacturing Ghanaian company. And imagine what that company can do on the African continent. This is just a classic example. So it's a cultural issue. We haven't built that culture of forming these partnerships. But if you study the history of global capitalism, the way that the global multinationals that we see have gotten to where they are is through mergers and acquisitions and partnerships and consortiums. It's the quickest way to do it. And we have to learn to engineer these things.
But how do we trigger? I mean, we all know we're supposed to do that, but nobody wants to do that.
We need to show, because a few people are doing it, so we need to show the success models so that it will trigger, more and more success stories. And I think the likes of Citi, and maybe the associations can begin to showcase, mergers and acquisitions and partnerships and consortiums that are working in Ghana. They can be small scale, but we need to showcase them. We need to encourage them. Maybe we need policy incentives, maybe tax incentives that encourage and stimulate these things. So that's number one at the level of enterprises.
Okay.
Number two, in terms of partnerships and collaborations, and that goes to a point that Fatima and I think Mark made initially. One of the quickest ways to get the first mover advantages, whilst everybody's playing wait and see, is to use aggregators and export development companies. So one of the challenges we're going to face is that a lot of our small SMEs do not have the capability, even if they can produce, to find buyers and export into foreign markets. And if you're exporting and you're exporting in small quantities, it's not profitable. You need to export at a certain scale and volume in order to make sense.
Money.
So one of the things we need are export aggregators to be consciously groomed. There are a couple of them in the system, but I think that GEPA, for example, needs to have a program for grooming export aggregators. Export aggregators and export development companies are the ones who will find the buyers in the foreign markets. Because the SME that sits in Ghana doesn't have what it takes. And it's not what it should do. It needs to just specialize in producing. Somebody has to specialize in finding buyers and bring in a contract. And if a buyer finds an aggregated contract, what they do then is to subcontract to a lot of local producers and give them the specification and say, this is what a buyer wants. Maybe we want 1 million volumes of a certain product. You find 5 producers. None of them on their own can meet that 1 million demand. But 5 of them, each of them produces 200,000. They can do that. But somebody has to do that coordination. Somebody has to give them the specification and say, this is what, if it's singlets, that has to be produced. It's produced to a certain specification, a certain quality, a certain standard. That standard is given, a subcontractor is produced. The aggregator takes it. The aggregator does the contract financing. The aggregator takes care of the shipping to the buyer. This trade intermediation is one of the biggest gaps, one of the biggest weaknesses. So we need to consciously solve the trade intermediation problem, and that's related again to the financing issue. Because if you have a big aggregator, that aggregator can go to the bank and raise that financing more easily. Then they go and subcontract and deal with the SMEs. Other than each of those SMEs having to go and find their buyers, having to go and raise the financing, having to go to do the shipping and all of that. This is the special role that aggregators and export development companies do. And we need to consciously as a country nurture them. It's a missing link in the trade and export value chain. It's a missing link. The aggregators and export development companies, we need them to come in and deal with a lot of these issues. So again, in terms of productive capabilities and all of that, yes, medium term, we can support our enterprises and we may get there. But I am more concerned about the first mover advantages because a lot of countries are playing wait and see, and I think that's a brilliant opportunity for us. We need to be able to move in quick on certain quick win, low-hanging fruits and capture them.
Take advantage.
And just to give a practical example of that aggregator role, I think to an extent that is played today, let's say in the cocoa sector by Cocoa Board, for example. All right, there are other considerations, but you can just use Cocoa Board to illustrate that. And you can see the extent to which Cocoa Board then deals with farmers, deals with licensed buying companies, maintain standards. And you can see then the power and the size of Cocoa Board when it comes to the market for financing. It's able to line up, say, 20 global banks and look for the best sources of funding. So that is what Michael is alluding to.
Okay, so let's throw that to Sam, who should be able to do this. I mean, help get the aggregators, help groom the businesses, and all these nice things that Michael and Komla are talking about. Sam, are we seeing that from you guys?
I think that before I go there, I'd like to mention a couple of things. I was struck by Madam Fatima's example on the pineapple suckers thing that she mentioned. I mean, GEPA is the trade promotion. I mean, the National Trade Promotion Organization. And we have tried in the last couple of years to tell the world, especially the SMEs, the exportable SMEs, and even potentials, what we do. Let me just be quick to say that recently, I think in last month, we launched what we call the GEPA Impact Hub. Mm-hmm. The GEPA Impact Hub is full of trade information. It's full of technical advice. It's full of anything that you would do to upscale your business and to be able to export. And so let me just take this opportunity to inform the SMEs and the businesses out there that we have loads of trade information, from market to prices to standards to anything that you would need to be an exportable company. We even have what we call the Market Hub. So we have the Impact Hub, the GEPA Impact Hub, and the Market Hub. And we want to use this opportunity to invite anybody who is in doubt or who needs information about trade to come, and we would be more than happy to direct them. I mean, GEPA has been working extensively on pineapple. And we encourage associations, because we work through associations. Obviously, this person who said that throws away their pineapple suckers is not part of the pineapple association that we have, because we GEPA have even been buying and using it to expand the pineapple markets that we have. So it really struck me, and I will contact Madam to get more information. But on the question of the export aggregators, yes, we are working on it. In fact, we have been working on it through even our export school. But for specifically and after, AGI and I currently have a project that we are working on what we call the export trade houses, where we are going to aggregate products, not GEPA doing it, but through private business, enterprises, aggregate products from here, and then we will be able to ship them, and then we'll be able to create market footprint in countries. So basically, we would be setting up the export houses at the other end, private businesses who will be the aggregators that Michael is talking about, will be able to work with the exporters on this side, aggregate their business, of course, according to the standards of the products that will be accepted in those markets, and then we will be able to ship them through, the right logistics, and there will be a market distribution net footprint set up in. So yes, we are working on it. What I find intriguing on what he said is, probably bringing more of the youth who would be interested and to train them as aggregators. That is a good suggestion we will take on board. But I'll go back to my earlier submission that I made as far as the collaboration is concerned. I think that is driving through all the conversation that we are having. And you would need a government organization like GEPA, together with other government organizations like EXIM, like IPC, like Free Zones, and all the other private associations to be on one table to be able to plan and execute. It's more, it's very, very important. So this project will even talk, we'll have research components, we'll have issues about how do we, reduce the utility cost, cost of production for our goods to be competitive. How do we make sure that they are producing to standards? How do we make sure that they are getting the financing? And so even banks will be part of this whole collaboration project that we are talking about, so that we would say that, okay, for the first batch of SMEs, let's look at 200 companies that are ready, or that has export experience already, and let's hold their hands through, certain activities, certain challenges that we have identified. What does GNCCI do? What does AGI do? What will the commercial banks do? What will the free zones do? what will FDA, GSA do? What will Exim do to be able to ensure that our final destination will be our products getting into the market? So that is being led by GAPA through the National Export Development Strategy. And we'll call all the stakeholders who have have something to contribute to make sure we achieve the objective. And let's not forget that the objective, as I've stated, it will be to land the goods in the market and to create a sustainable market distribution chain for these products. And it would include even, companies coming together to supply a certain market because they are doing the same thing or because they are doing similar things. So the strategy should be being more deliberate and being more systematic to ensure that, we are holding the hands of first 100, first 20, first 500 companies to access various markets with their various products. So that project is coming up, and we'll call all the stakeholders who have something to do to make sure that we don't just pay lip service about this after, but take the first mover advantage that Michael just mentioned. So GEPA would be the leading government agencies, and we'll bring everybody on board to make sure that we don't just talk it away, but do something about it. Yeah. Okay,
Mark. So it looks like all the conversation, everybody's trying to help the companies. Everybody's lobbying, pushing. Michael has said you need, people to help with aggregation, with whatever. And Fatima has said things. All of us are saying nice things for the companies. But what key areas, do you need to also improve to look competitive for the aftermarket?
Well, thank you very much. Michael just Samuel, they are going to be the lead institution. We want to see action. It shouldn't be just a talk for now, because we need it as soon as possible if we can benefit from the after. It's a good call for all of us to collaborate, but let's see the action as soon as possible. I think on the sidelines we were discussing a number of issues and how we can move forward. So I like that. Then back to your question, I remember when Michael was launching his research report, I raised an issue of the report looking at the macro level and not the micro level. There have been extensive discussion about interest rates, about cost of power, and all those issues. But at the micro level, at the firm level, I think the industries and the firms and the companies also need to improve on certain activities to be able to be competitive. And then with our experience, I've seen a number of issues that I would want us to go through. The first one is producing to meet the international standard, product quality. In fact, the fact that we have created a market does not mean that you can just take up any product and send it to any country and say you are selling. In fact, the issue of international trade, of opening up after, the discussion should for now also be moved from tariffs to looking at the non-tariff barriers. Because that is the only way that institutions and countries can use to prevent products entering into their countries. So if you produce and you don't meet that standard, then they can say that we will not allow you to bring this product in there. For instance, if you want to bring a product to Ghana and you realize that it doesn't meet the standard of Food and Drugs Authority or Ghana Standard Authority or whatever product, that product will not be allowed irrespective of being part of the aftermarket. So whatever we are doing, we should be able to produce to meet that standard, that anybody can pick it up and say that this product from company A, if you take it to country A or country B or country C, it meets that standard, and nobody can use the non-tariff barriers to prevent that product from entering into that market. Linked to that is packaging and presentation. And it's been said several times, and it's very key. Sometimes you pick a product and there's no labeling on it, expiring date, the content, nothing. And no country will allow you, even though you have after, to send those products there. I'll give you a typical example. I know probably, Vivian, you know Nkati cake, right?
Yes.
So there was a time that I wanted to have some Nkati cake. And I tried it. The ones that I saw were those that were selling on the street and other things. And I look at it and I say, no, I don't know where this product is coming from. I don't know who prepared it. I don't know the conditions under which they were prepared. So much as I tried, I was prevented from having it. I went into a shop and I saw same Nkati cake, well packaged, well labeled, with expiring dates, content, everything on it. And it was 30 Ghana cedis. Nkati cake that probably you buy it for, let's say, 2-3 cedis.
Yeah.
It was 30 Ghana, but I bought it.
Okay.
Because I knew where it was coming from. I knew I was buying a product that will not harm me in terms of my health. So packaging is also very key, and meeting international standards is also very key. One other thing we need to look at is also our efficiency of production. We cannot do things the way we are doing now and expect that we'll be competitive. Technology is key. How are we bringing technology into our production system to be able to reduce costs? If we continue like that, cost will be high, and we will not be able to price competitively. So let's look at the way we produce, and also invest in research and development. It's only then that you'll be able to produce the goods that are required and at a competitive price. And also we have to look at our supply chain as well. In fact, the question we need to ask ourselves, the industries that we are talking about, where are they getting their raw materials from? For us, we have an advantage when it comes to doing agro-processing. The Nigerian economy, our lands are good, we have water, we have everything. How do we go commercial? Because this subsistence farming will not help us going forward. How do we go commercial to ensure that we provide raw materials to these companies that are adding value to our raw products? For instance, I sometimes find it difficult, even though we open our borders, to think that we are importing a lot of fruit juice from South Africa. A lot. But we have all these raw materials here. If you have a company that is producing consistently and we've opened our market, there's a higher demand for our products. Is the level of production of raw materials sufficient to feed these industries?
Yeah.
Somebody asked after the chocolate, is everybody 1.2 people? Is everybody is taking the chocolate a day? You'll be selling 1.2, and we have been doing the calculations. Even when we decided to supply chocolate to the students, the school, the primary schools, have we been able to satisfy that? So production capacity is also very, very important. And one thing that I've realized, if you ask any business person, as you raise an issue of financing, they will tell you that we need money. We need money. But we have also identified as a chamber that proper management of businesses is very key. You can't just manage your business anyhow and think that you'll be efficient enough to be able to participate and benefit from after. Corporate governance. Go to a lot of these businesses. We've been talking about SMEs and aggregation and all those things. We need to go to the firm level, at their level, and find out what kind of management practices are there. If you get the aggregators and they are saying that we are providing you with a market of, let's say, 100 million, and you have to supply this, will you be able to do that? One of our members got an opportunity to supply textiles to one market. Then he came and he tried to bring all those tailors and producers of textiles together, and they were to supply a certain quantity. He went to brag that I'll be able to do it. In fact, when the time came for him to send the goods, he couldn't produce. And some of them, I must say, going back to the quality, I mean, we need to improve on it. You see a shirt and the button is somewhere and the hole is somewhere. And we have a clear case where a product were rejected under AGWA because of quality. So, the chamber was housing the AGWA Resource Center. We are still having it with USAID. So we've done a lot of work on AGWA, on how we can build a capacity of Ghanaian businesses to export under AGOA. One of the key things we handled was quality. And it was so unfortunate. So we brought somebody from US to come and take us through what it is that we are required to send in there. The trousers, one side is longer than the other. So let's look at all these things together. Okay. And I think we've also made mention of scaling up and collaborating to be able to enjoy economies of scale, which is very key. Because the level at which we are producing now, there is no way, I mean, given the other challenges we are facing regarding the economic environment, interest rate, and cost of energy and other things, if we produce at this level, we will not be able to enjoy economies of scale. So either the individual companies are upskilling to be able to produce more, because the market is there. But we also have to identify those who will need our products. Once we have opened our markets outside, we have also opened our market to other people. So there's a dual competition, local competition and international competition. And we need to do something totally different to be able to enjoy that. One thing is also customer relationship. I was talking to somebody and he said anytime he goes to the developed countries and he goes to a shop, he picks one or two things and those producers, they get to know that he's in the country. So they immediately will send him an information that we know you are back. So please get this, get that. These are some of the trainings that we should be able to use to build the capacity of producers. In fact, as a chamber, we did a research and we realized that most businesses in Ghana, even though they are profitable, they are not resilient and they are not sustainable in the long run. Okay. The reason being that we use over 750 companies, over 17 industries, so we cover the whole country. So the definition of what we call a good business or a successful business should not end at being profitable and saying that you have profit, but you need to look at the fact that you are resilient and we are sustainable. So for us to benefit from AfCFTA, our businesses should be resilient and be sustainable. And the reason, the issue also had to do with how they are able to withstand shocks. When we were doing this in 2019, we didn't know that COVID was going to come. It was later part of, but 2020, COVID came, and the companies that we have identified that they were not resilient, most of them had gone down, either totally or partially. So let's rethink about the definition of a business success, being a success, and also look at being able to build the businesses that are resilient and sustainable. And for you to be able to attract capital, I think our gentleman from AfCFTA, Michael, we need to look at the capital structure of our businesses. You don't just go around borrowing or increasing your debt or getting an equity. We need to look at your capital structure and look at which of these financing options will be important or will be appropriate for this particular company. People will just go for debt at this high interest rate, and then within a certain point that they are not able to pay and they end up collapsing their businesses. So the chamber, we are doing this holistically to make sure that we build business. In fact, tomorrow, 23rd of June, we are having a CEO's forum, which is with a theme of redefining business success, the path for value, resilience, and sustainability. And we are going to discuss all these issues in there. So we need to, all of us, come together and make sure that our businesses succeed. And the last one, the issue of cost is big, but let's look at access to long-term funding. We are talking about manufacturing. The nature of finance with our banks are mostly short-term. 1 year, and they are asking that you are coming for your property, or they are asking that you pay. But to build an industry will require a long-term funding of a minimum of 5 to 10 years. So the banks should also look at how they can provide this long-term funding for businesses. That is why we also support that the National Development Bank is also coming. If you work it out properly, it will be to the advantage of Ghana and Ghanaian businesses.
All right. Thank you, Mark. A lot of issues you need to work on. I don't envy you at this point. But there's a part about the branding aspect. Fatima, how can the companies also brand themselves to be competitive in the AfCFTA area? And then also, Kobla, you can tell us a critical thing in trade finance, but after we come back from our break. But when we come back, those who've joined us via Zoom, you can send your questions now. We'll take your questions. And also, if you want to send us a message and you're watching at home or at work or wherever you are, you can also send us a message via Facebook or Twitter. Remember to add the hashtag Citi Business Festival, or you can send us a message via the telephone. The number is currently scrolling on your screen. We'll be right back.
And this is how it connects us.
私たちをつなぐ
We believe in helping people find a way to get things done. We call this Africanacity.
Hey, welcome back. It is still the Citi Business Festival Forum. Today, our theme is preparing and positioning for the after opportunity. I have 5 people here having this discussion, 3 in the studio and 2 who have joined us via Zoom. Let me acknowledge them again. We have Michael Koto, he's with Confidence. We also have Kobla Nyalete, Director of Markets, AfCFTA Ghana and Nigeria, as well as Madam Fatima Ali Mohammed. She's the Chairperson, Agribusiness Sector of the AGI, and also CEO of Africa Brand Warrior. Via Zoom, we have Mark Abedu Abuaji, Chief Executive of GNCCI, as well as Sam Dintu. He's a Deputy CEO of GEPA. So let me come back to you, Madam Fatima, on how businesses can brand themselves well to be able to compete nicely in the AfCFTA area.
I think it's a two-pronged approach. For AfCFTA, one, we have to focus also on national branding because that is really missing. We need to identify what is it that the different stakeholders within the country see positively of the country, because that's what ignites the brand meaning, the tone, the voice. I mean, everything's got to match seamlessly from the time you enter any of the borders. It should match with the vision of the country. So obviously we've got to look at the national branding of the country. And obviously different markets do it better in different ways. I mean, if you look at South Africa, for example, today people cannot remember apartheid because they've taken themselves to another level where it's become the country for business playfield. You look at Kenya, what it does in terms of tourism and business. So I think that is the first step for us.
How can we do that? We attempted to do that years back.
I know when I moved to Ghana, and I'm probably going to be killed for this, I did raise this, and after that I remember being kicked out from the group. Because I said, the biggest crime you can ever do on a branding is to go and create a slogan on behalf of its people. Because if they don't have a buy-in into that slogan, then, you've got to speak to the person at the church, you've got to speak to the chichinga seller, you've got to speak to a student, speak to the priest, speak to a businesswoman, speak to a Kaya woman. What is the one common thread that each one of them has as the belief or the selling point for Ghana? And that's when you start doing a brand building, not just going and creating a slogan for a country, So that I know is a very sensitive topic, but it needs to be done. Okay. I think Ghana's been doing phenomenally well in terms of image right now. When you go out there, we are seen. I mean, if you talk about, the return of the diaspora, if you look at the kind of positions we're sitting in, at the president level, in the AU, in whatever else conversations, we have been put in there. And obviously, Ghana was always seen to be futuristic. If we look at, from the time of Nkrumah, we were always standing on shoulders of the giants. So the question now comes in, how can we build on that? Okay, so first from that brand perspective. Secondly it's really sad, that unfortunately for us in Ghana, the further something comes from, the better we think it is. And it's, I don't know what that phenomenon is, because when we look at our local products, if we talk about our coconut, our shea, products and that. I mean, I was working, with the shea industry as well when I moved to Ghana, when I came in to set up Fritol. And it was really sad to see that when new businesses are coming up, young entrepreneurs, when it works to sending something outside Ghana, the packaging is amazing. They go the whole hog, from the labeling, the packaging, to the kind of messages that they put on it, But when it comes to selling to our own, let's look at, I'm sorry, our people are not going to buy it at that price. They want the cheapest, and for me to give them the cheapest means I've got to give them the cheapest packaging and all that. So we don't focus on the branding, and I think that is something that was, picked up by Mark from the Chamber. So we really need to work on that branding. I'm working on, apart from what I do, I work with various women organizations. I'm doing a project in Hohwe with the African Skill Hubs. And what we're doing there is taking women, step by step through the process, of understanding what branding means. Why do they need to first get the name right? There's a big deal in just naming a product right, because it has a different meaning in another country. Getting the ingredients right, because a lot of them, you've got to remember, are doing, homemade stuff, handmade. So how can we ensure consistency? How can we ensure that they are certified by the Food and Drugs? So branding becomes the first step to anything that we need to do. We need to start believing in our own, and Mark has rightly said, we are 1.3 billion populace, for crying out loud. If we sell to our own, we're done, but we need to try and promote that. I mean, today, if you talk highly of the Kente fabric, coming in from Kenya, I can tell you the way every time I travel, I've got to take fabric with me. Every time I travel, I've got to take shea butter with me. Every time I travel, I've got to take 70% chocolate with me. So it means it's known. That's the thing that is there. So how can we start turning it into a business? I do it for free, but I need to start charging people for it, you see? So we do have it. We just need to package it right. And that is one of the biggest steps we need to work in.
Kamla, trade financing.
Yes. So before I come to trade finance specifically, just one or two comments based on what Mark said earlier. So Mark outlined a couple of what we may term internal, firm-level, micro, challenges. And just to highlight that, it is important that businesses address those because they also do affect the firm's ability to access and then the cost at which it accesses credit, right? The macro interest rate picture is simply a starting point. So policy rate today 13.5, government bond 1 year say 16%. Those are simply starting points. Banks then assess the firm and derive what we call a risk premium based on how the firm is structured. So for example, if I will lend to you to ship to say Kenya, I want to be assured that you will be able to produce to the quality required. Non-trade barrier standards will not, mean that your shipment will get to Mombasa and the guys will say no. So all of those, work together to influence whether you're able to access credit and the price at which you are able to access credit. And therefore, businesses must take those very, seriously. Now, to trade finance, as I said at the beginning, the conversation here is about businesses who want to go outside of their, their jurisdictions, their countries. And really, if you're doing that, you're either an importer or an exporter. And there are two, we can summarize the unique challenge there probably in two ways. Number one, if you are an importer, is the supply risk, the risk that the goods will arrive, and they will arrive at, based on the standards, specifications agreed. Then if you are an exporter, then, the key risk probably is whether, you will get paid. All right. And if you are a medium-sized business in Ghana, selling to, say, Kenya, I'm not sure you can fly to Kenya and go chase, your supplier. It's not effective to do that. Yeah. And that is where banks then step in. They step in with what we broadly term trade finance, product and solutions. All right. And here, just to use two, or one as an example. So, for example, if you are probably, an importer, all right, and buying, say, goods from Nigeria, the guy selling to you, the business selling to you from Lagos, is also worried whether you'll be able to pay. And then, you're also worried whether the goods that will come will be of the right quality. A bank can step in and then assure your supplier from Lagos that provided the goods arrive in Accra, based on the dates agreed to the standards required, then the bank will pay. It becomes an obligation, an irrevocable obligation on the part of the bank. Yeah. And probably we all can agree that a big bank, a proper bank, in such an arrangement should give comfort to the supplier to move the goods, over to you. Yeah. Another, example is that sometimes you supply goods and then people, agree to pay you, say, in 30 days, 180 days, in 60 days' time. Yeah. As a business, you can't submit, for example, those invoices, those receivables to a bank to discount it, as opposed to, say, you going to your bank to raise credit, to finance all of that activity. Yeah. So far as you have a valid invoice in hand, and indeed, at times, those invoices also confirmed by reputable banks on the other side, then you should be able to sell or discount those invoices in your local market, receive funding to, prosecute your business. So those are some of the unique products and solutions that businesses looking to tap into after should really be talking to their banks about, and not only what they know, which is, I go take, a loan, for a defined period. They are unique products, specific to international trade. Then, the last point I really want to make here, is that, at the beginning, and with this, Mark made a point that majority of the businesses are really probably into manufacturing, and they need, what we call term money. The starting point is that, any bank that probably gives a 1-year loan to a business when the business clearly needs a 5-year loan is not doing proper banking. All right, you must match the funding that you give based on, the duration, the gestation period of the project that the business will be engaging. But at times, I think, businesses probably are also probably, in a hurry to get things started. The stories are not full, and they simply need some money. And as a result, at times, they want to take a chance by simply utilizing what, is available. That is dangerous. And clearly, businesses must tell the full picture. There should be a proper plan strategy in place. And if you do talk to a proper bank, the kind of financing they give you must meet your needs. Because the truth is, if a business needs a 5-year loan, you give them a 1-year loan, in a way, the bank, you even endanger yourself. Chances are that business will not be able to pay in terms of bad loan for you. And therefore, those are really not how it should be.
Okay. All right. Well, coming to the end of the discussion, but I'm going to ask this question around, especially to Michael and then to Sam and then Fatima, about the new opportunities Ghanaian businesses watching now should be aware of for this. After we've spoken about the space, what is expected, some of the things they could do, but moving forward, if you're new or you're new, you want to enter into a business, you want to be part of the AfCFTA thing, what's there that is new that you can take advantage of and make your money and move with it? Michael, you start.
So, even before we talk about the opportunity, I think it's important to let businesses know what the process is, right? Because we talked a lot of opportunities. If I am a small-scale producer and I produce shoes in Ghana and I want to sell into the aftermarket, where do I even start from? So there's a need for a lot of education. And I think this is where, again, GEPA and especially the Chamber have a lot of work to do, in just showing what the steps are, where you need to go to, where you need to go and register, how to get your export license, how to get your certificate of origin, et cetera, and how the whole process works. At the moment, there's not a lot of public education on those.
Okay.
So would like to see a lot of that. It should be in local languages. It should be on national television. It should be all over the place. Okay. If you want to take opportunity of AfCFTA, these are the steps, X, Y, Z. This is where you need to go. This is where you need to go to. Because you need certain licensing, to be able to do that. So that's the first one. In terms of opportunities, of course, there are a lot of products. GEPA just went through a list of products. In our research, we looked at a couple of products. I think what's important is for government to show Ghanaians the list of products that Ghana has negotiated to trade under AfCFTA, because that's where it starts from. It's not every product that Ghana has agreed to trade under AfCFTA. Yeah. So you might be thinking that there's a product that you produce that you want to trade. If it's not on the list that Ghana has negotiated, that product doesn't qualify. Yeah. Then number two, you need to know the tariffs that has been negotiated for that particular product, so that you know how to strategize. Does it really make sense for me to do it or not, right? So these are fundamentals, and we need more public education on these. You need that basket of products, that list, and the applicable tariffs, and which countries they qualify to go. Yeah. Then you know how to play. So that's number one. We need more public education on this. In terms of how to think about the opportunities, conceptually, I would like to differentiate between playing in the external market and playing in the local domestic market. So you can take advantage of AfCFTA either by playing in the external market, but you can also take advantage of AfCFTA without exporting.
Okay.
Right? You can still be within Ghana and still take advantage of AfCFTA. So it all comes down to, again, the value chains. So you can choose to play within an export value chain that feeds into one of the regional value chains in Africa, but you are not actually exporting and shipping products outside of Ghana, which means that you can be a local supplier to a company that produces and exports. Yeah. So you are within Ghana. You are not producing a finished product to export, but you can be a supplier to a factory. You can be a supplier of a primary product to a factory, or a semi-finished good to a factory that then produces and finishes that product for exports. And I think this is very important. We need to be able to segment the AfCFTA value chains in the way that people can appreciate the domestic components of those value chains and the external components of those value chains, so that you can know that even without exporting and shipping, you can still take advantage of AfCFTA, even while you're in Ghana. Yeah. So that's important. The second one is services. So the discussion has tended to focus on tangible products, right? But there's also services, which is also a part of AfCFTA, and that's important. The protocol on trading services is being finalized. Some of the areas that qualify financial services, I think telecommunications, tourism, professional services, and a whole range of them, which all qualify. And, just being able to do e-commerce, being able to do COVID now has normalized remote work, and so there's a range of opportunities in that category. Tourism is one of them, because tourism is an export sector, right? When people travel to come and do tourism in Ghana, come on and visit, even though they are coming together, they are bringing foreign exchange. Yeah. So it is an export market, right? So all our hotels, our entertainment centers, our people who make all these products for tourists, the whole recreation, the whole tourism, local tourism sector is part of the after-export opportunity. Okay. And we need to find ways of supporting all of them to take advantage, of the opportunities that will avail themselves. Okay. But, back to in terms of products, in terms of specific, industries, I think government needs to do more public education. Okay. One more point I'll make: there are the opportunities, and then there's the issue of whether you're able to utilize and take advantage of the opportunities. A lot of it comes down to all the challenges that we have all spoken about. But some of the findings from the research we did, one of the things we did was to assess the rate of opportunity utilization by Ghanaian exporters within the African market. And there were some striking findings. Okay. For example, if you go into the Togo market, Ghana's estimated export potential for perfumery and cosmetic products in the Togo market, this was as of first quarter 2020, was $12.3 million, right? Estimated potential, perfumery and cosmetic products. We were taking advantage of only 1% of this opportunity. Wow. Only 1%. Wow. But if you go to the Burkina market, the same market, our estimated export potential of perfumery and cosmetic products was $10 million. We were taking advantage of 87% of that. Okay. So there's no clear logic to why Togo, which is a bit closer to Tema and the whole industrial enclave of Tema, we're not able to take advantage. But if you go to Burkina, we're taking more advantage. In fact, if you looked at the potential utilization map, across Africa, so if you look at Burkina Faso, if you looked at all value-added products that we export, we're taking 82% potential utilization. Okay. In Senegal, it's 72% potential utilization by Ghana, right? But if you come to Togo, it's 52%. So next door, potential utilization is low. If you go far away to Senegal, we're doing much higher. We also noticed that Ghanaian industry was taking more advantage of the export potential in Francophone markets than in Anglophone markets, which was striking. Because you would think that there would be a language barrier and all of that. And we noticed that there wasn't a language barrier to the ability of Ghanaian exporters to take advantage. These are really good. And I think we need to build on these trends, right? But the point here is that the opportunity can be there, but the ability to take advantage of the opportunity is another thing. And it boils down to all the macroeconomic challenges, the microeconomic challenges that Mark spoke about. We need to continuously work on these. Okay. But the thing again is their first mover advantages. And I just want to bring this up again. Their first mover advantages. You see, AfCFTA extends the boundaries of the local market. Once it takes full effect, the boundaries of what we call the Ghanaian local market now expands to the whole African market. So the boundaries of the Nigerian local market also now extend into the Ghanaian market. The boundaries of the Ghanaian market also extends into the Kenyan market, right? So the dynamics of the competition are changing, they are shifting. And so I think that the associations have a huge role to play, but government needs to step up. We need to release what our national AfCFTA strategy is. All right. It's important.
Okay. We have 4 minutes to wrap up, so I'm going to take a minute each for everybody. I'll start with Fatima, being the woman, and I'm being biased, I don't mind. So, Fatima, your final words, away for
Look, I can't emphasize more on what Mike has already said. He's said everything that needs to be said. The opportunities are there. We just need to believe in it. We need to grab it. We need to collaborate. I think that is the answer to anything that we want to do. But while we do that, let's not also forget the local market itself. If we're so busy focusing on what's going to be done for the exports, we'll end up realizing that we lose out on the local market. Food sustainability is a key area. So to answer your questions, the areas we need to look at for both local and export, obviously, is the food value chain. Dehydrated food products, like the cassava, the yam, is a huge potential. And then obviously, like he's rightly said, cosmetics is another area, textiles and everything else. So we just need to believe in it, and let's just start action and move away from talk.
Talk.
Yes, in terms of Vivian. So AfCFTA is a different opportunity. It's not one that the continent has seen before. And I think, we will be limiting ourselves if we reference previous attempts or similar attempts, that didn't work. And for us as a bank, it's probably the single biggest opportunity for us, to play a leading role to shift the population out of poverty. For Ghanaian businesses looking to tap into this, there are, some unique ways to surmount some of the short-term challenges whilst we wait for the macro solutions to come across. And therefore let's be bold, let businesses be bold. I second the views that at an association level we need to outlay a blueprint to support our businesses to really tap into this, and AfCFTA will play a leading role in that.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Mark. Mark, your final thoughts, then we'll go to Sam and wrap up.
Yeah, thank you. I think the opportunities are there, they are clear. It behoves on us as private sector individuals to take advantage of them. Nobody will work it out for us. We need to work together as a country, collaborate with each other to make sure that we take full advantage of the AfCFTA. I think what the government also need to do more to create the right environment and also be committed to making sure that we take advantage of it. I mean, since the AfCFTA started January 5th, we've been able to export, only 2 companies have been able to export 6 months on, which means that something needs to be done. The other countries, I think they're also having the challenges, even though we are talking about AfCFTA, it seems most of them are not ready because the challenge we had in exporting these 2 companies to export under AfCFTA means that as a continent, much as we are talking about it, we need to walk the talk. And if we are saying that we are reducing the tariffs, we do that and make information readily available. The products are there, the tariff signs are there. So you just pick your product, you know where you are selling it to and which country and what tariff lines are you dealing with. And then all of us will be able to benefit from it.
All right. Sam, you have the final words.
Thank you, Vivian. I think I will start my final remark with what Madam Fatima said from the beginning, that, we should be mindful that not everybody wants us to succeed with this AfCFTA. And so it will take ourselves to make sure we realize the benefits out of it. Not, all the development partners that works into our offices up and down, we really want AfCFTA to succeed. Some of them just come by to take our strategies and our plans and everything to try to make sure we don't succeed. But in terms of opportunities, something that Michael said from the beginning for me is even an opportunity for the youth. In terms of the sensitization and the education. I was speaking to some graduates recently, and I was talking to them about AfCFTA, and I told them, look, businesses, SMEs, and even the big firms, need to understand AfCFTA. What about you learning about it and going to them and offering your services and saying that, look, for this product, we can help you to reach the African market. Okay. And for me, that's a huge opportunity. And GEPA is positioned to help, train through our export school graduates to even go out there to speak the language that they would understand to help. Okay. He also mentioned the IT services, the services in general, including the IT services. GEPA in mid of July is doing an IT service virtual fair to show them.
We'll follow up on that. We have to go, but we'll follow up on that and push that for you. But thank you very much to our guests. We had Michael Koto with Confidence. We also had Koblan Nyaletes, Director of Markets, AfCFTA Ghana in Nigeria, Madame Fatima Ali Mohammed, Chairperson, Agribusiness Sector of AGI and CEO of African Brand Warrior, Mark Bedu Abuaji, Chief Executive of GNCCI, and Sam Daintu, Deputy CEO of GEPA. Our sponsors have been AFSA, supported by GIPC, also IT Consultum, and also powered by Citi FM, Citi TV, and Citi Business News. My name is Vivian Kailoko. Thank you so much for watching. The Citi Business Festival Conversations continues tomorrow on radio with Bernard Avle. Thank you. Goodbye.